Ladies and gents, Rex, and this is True Facts. Mussels that catch fish by the channel Zafrank. Just Zafrank. He removed the one apparently. Alright. So another True Facts video from Zafrank. Mussels, I don't know, that catch fish. Okay, I know big predators catch fish, but I've never heard of mussels or whatever, mussels or whatever. So I guess this is gonna be some small creature that catches fish or something. I guess small fish. I don't know. This is a Frank video, right? It's gonna be fun with some puns here and there, some Jerry joke, right? Talking with Jerry. So yeah, that's what it. I love anything animal zoology video. I do like Tier Zoo, Casual Geographic, Frank, right? So it's always fun. I've seen few from Kyrgyzstan as well, the ant videos, right? I don't know. Recommend some good channels, right? Especially about ants. Not just channel, good videos that shows about animal kingdom and like how Kyrgyzstan show, like there's a war brewing or whatever. Complexity is always fun to see. So let's watch it.
Sponsored by NordVPN.
Two friends not appropriate
Here,
for children.
A
Really?
darterfish looks for a morsel of Now I know what you're thinking.
That's
you're
what?
Thinking, I didn't know clams ate fish. Well, first off, that right there is a mussel, and calling it a clam is offensive. And second of all, that's a lady mussel, and what she's doing is squirting baby juice all over that fish's face parts. And by baby juice, I mean juice that's made out of real babies. It's embarrassing is what it is. And now
babies.
that Ethel saw it, it'll be the talk of Fishtown. Old Dale got a face full of baby juice.
Look at
Well,
him.
I should
looking at
explain. Let's back up a bit.
Juice that made from
Freshwater
babies is
mussels in
fucked
the
up.
order Unionidae are found in rivers and streams around the world. Now, the thing about being a freshwater mussel is that you're essentially a rock with a pair of lips, and it can be challenging
Oh God, he's cracking
do
up already.
anything. Oop, we got a feisty one. So when it comes to making babies, they have to get creative. Now, the male mussel's job is straightforward. Literally, he simply releases his sperm into the water, a task perfectly suitable for a creature so limited in its doingness. And there they are. That's a mussel sperm right there. The one in the top right looks like fun. Now, sometimes the sperm comes in balls.
Why is it so funny, man? He's cracking up and I know where the joke is going. It's too funny, man.
It's a tough grouping of words, but they do. Look at this. It can look a bit chaotic in there, but eventually they all group together on one side with their little tails hanging out and push in the same direction. Come on, boys, we're going that way. Why, what's that way? Who knows? We're in a river. Downstream, the females, which can look quite female, receive the sperm. I'm not sure how. I guess maybe there's a lot of it. And then they use it to fertilize their eggs. There are quite a few eggs, but until they are appropriately shelled, she raises them all in her cozy one-bedroom apartment. The little babies are quite musselish. They have their mother's looks. However, they have a little bit of a toothy grin. And when you open them up, you can see there's more inside. Up close, it looks like a candy corn farm. But in some species, these hooks can be a bit frightening. Bands of muscle that stretch across the shell can contract and make the whole thing pinchy-pinchy. Look, you can even see some of the sensory hairs that trigger that movement. And those threads there are also designed to help grab onto things. All of these bells and whistles are in preparation for what happens next. Now, our friend Dale happened to run into a mussel in the genus Epioblasma. They're the ones that might have the most straightforward approach. Fish like Dale often forage for food by turning over little stones and pebbles, and maybe occasionally a mussel or two. After getting rolled around like that, you can imagine they might want some payback. So Epioblasma evolved the ability to snapshot and hold on to the face of these fishes. Look at his face. He's like, what the f***? And it's a tight squeeze, too. Some species use little teeth to hold on. And look, some evolved what look like little tasty fish eggs to draw the fish closer. I mean, it's not that impressive. You'll see. Now, this isn't just some...
No, seriously, the how things evolve is really surprised me every single time because they feel like really tailor-made. All these different, fishes, animals, and whatever, they feel really tailor-made in that way, right? They evolve for specific one type of predator, and so one type of things. They turn the predator into prey and shit like that. In order to attract these fishes, they create this kind of like egg type of thing, which is not. We've seen that many times in different animals who evolved just to lure out certain type of animals, which is always surprising, right? I mean, if it's just like a defense mechanism for everyone, if it's some kind of a bait type of thing for everyone. It makes sense, but for specific type of animal, that's always surprises me.
Some sort of fish face fetish. If you look closely, you can see the mummy mussel sort of pulsing. What she's doing is making herself into a sort of bellows, forcing water through the fish's mouth and out of its gills. And along with that water comes the babies. The chompy little babies of freshwater mussels are designed for this moment. As they pass through the fish's gills, they grab on. And not just a few of them, a whole bunch. The gill tissue responds by wrapping itself around the larva, sort of incorporating it into the fish's body. But for most mussels, this only works if it's the right species of fish. Grab onto the wrong gills and the tissue will eventually reject you, like this one here, which is about to get pinched off. And it's not just the gills. The larva can attach to the fins as well. Anyway, now you can probably better appreciate what's happening to old Dale here. I mean, he really got the full package. Eventually, the mummy mussel lets go. And for
What the fuck? I bet when he start to research these mussels, mussels thing, right? He just like, okay, I can make this into half an hour video, but I'll have to make it under 10 minutes, around 10 minutes. But this is way too good, right? I have way too much jokes and content on this one.
for some reason, Dale decides to come back. Probably trying to drop off the hitchhikers right back where they came from. But they're not going anywhere. The tissue of the fish will now provide them with the safety and nourishment they need as they develop. Now, not every mussel wants to deep-throat a fish face. And some fish, quite frankly, are just too big to fit. But there are ways to get a fish close enough. But before we get into that, let me tell you, you don't have to worry about mussel babies attaching themselves to your face parts. But when you're online, you're going to pick up some trackers and cookies. Not meltaways either, sneaky cookies. Just look at that creepy invisible man there being creepy. So if you're serious about privacy, like this one here who removed his own face, you'll get yourself NordVPN. Takes your online activity and encrypts it, which makes it look like gibberish to the snoops. Then your activity is sent through a server in another location, so you can't tell where it came from. And all of this has some benefits. For example, some internet service providers throttle your bandwidth if they can detect that you're streaming movies. If it's encrypted, they can't tell what you're doing, and they have to go throttle something else. I know what you're saying. What about the creepy invisible people at the cafe? Well, NordVPN has you covered because it's more than just a VPN. With threat protection, your downloads are scanned for malware, and URLs containing digital threats are blocked before they can do their dirty work. Check it out at nordvpn.com/ZayFrank. You'll find an exclusive deal and a 30-day money-back guarantee. And because it's NordVPN's 11th birthday, you'll get a little something extra on top. And while you're at it, thank them for sponsoring this episode. Where were we?
Where there is life, there...
Oh, right. Some mussels in the genus Lampsillus have evolved a modification to their lips. I mean, technically their mantle, but I'm sticking with lips. This right here makes those fake fish eggs look like a kindergarten arts and crafts project. Look at that, they got the whole package, the looks, the movement. I bet it confuses the hell out of the fish they're trying to mimic. You think you found a good listener for your problems, turns out to be a f***ing mussel. But when the right fish approaches for a nibble, surprise! Baby confetti. If you slow it down, you can see the babies being forced through the gills of the fish. A bit of a fancier strategy, but the same end result. And it's not just fishes either. Mussels have changed their lips to look like all sorts of crap. I mean, if you want something fancy, look at this one right here. Wait for it. There it goes. It's a little crayfish. Then you get to the end, you gotta reset it. Zoop, ding. And look at this. They come in evening wear too. Medianitis conraticus, on the other hand, went for subtlety. I'm not totally sure what it's supposed to be, but I get it. I mean, I want to touch it. You got Legumia recta, which looks a bit like a pair of dentures that got lost in a shag carpet. It's pretty great, isn't it? But listen, you don't have to go through all this body modification to get your babies into a fish's mouth. It turns out you can serve them up directly. Some mussels package up their babies into little bundles called conglutinates. These little bundles are designed to look like things that fish might eat, and then released directly into the water. There they go, and the fish right after them. And look at this, the fish come right back. It's like a vending machine that you pay for with kisses. A couple more, come on. Yay! Some of these conglutinates are fairly straightforward, like these little ribbons released by Theliderma cylindrica. Up close, you can see that they're made of strands of unfertilized eggs with chompy larvae mixed in. Strophitis undulatus embeds its larvae into little worms of mucus. In some species, pigments are added in for additional effect. With a toolbox of eggs, mucus, and paint, it turns out you can make all sorts of things. Look at this one right here. The dark stuff is pigment. When this thing is released, it's designed to break apart into two different fakies. One half looks like a developing fish egg. The other half looks like the larva of an insect, and it has a sticky side so it can attach to rocks. These mussels in the genus Tychobranchus are particularly ambitious. I mean, this is some Da Vinci shit right here. Those little whiskers there are just streaks of pigment in the mucus, and the whole thing looks quite a bit like the pupa of a black fly. Conglutinates like these little number 2 pencils here are formed inside the mummy mussel in folds of tissue that act as molds. You can see a whole bunch right there, packed together like a belt of ammo. The level of detail can be quite
Okay, seriously, man. The color thing is so awesome, right? It's like you get successful so enough, like you can have new skins, right? It's like a Call of Duty multiplayer or something. Oh, look at that, you can purchase new skins. Now it comes in red color, it comes in different colors.
incredible. Certainly enough to fool a fish. Now, they don't have to taste good to work.
Fool a
You can
fish,
see
is
the
that how it
fish is
works?
getting a little burpy. And there you go. You can see it leaking out the gills. I mean, the job's done before the fish gets a chance to spit it back out. Conglutinates are essentially little Trojan horse piñatas just waiting to pop. In some cases, they're designed so the babies come out where the fake eyeballs are. Yoink, pop, huh, and it's over. And it just keeps going. Some species have a full-on fishing setup. Here, look, there's a mussel right there in the middle of the screen. And then that thing there, that's a lure attached to a mucus tether that the mussel sort of reels out. And come on, it totally looks like it's swimming, doesn't it? Here's a better look at it. Looks like you sneezed out your pituitary. I mean, it is quite a bit of effort, isn't it? All this work to get your babies onto the gills of a fish. Why?
Oh, look at
Why
that.
the fish? Well, if they just released their babies into the current, then every generation would move further downstream. The fishes are like taxis that bring a certain percentage of the babies back upstream. There, they detach from the fish, mostly leaving it no worse for the wear. And the little babies can settle down and start the whole process all over again. Well, sort
God.
of, except for the whole extinction thing, which seems to be happening to them, which is a bummer. Don't tell them, because they can't read, so they have no idea.
Why is
Might
that
be better
happening?
not to know. Anyway, if you want to try and help, get your feet wet, apparently in rivers full of mussel sperm, you can support the Freshwater Mollusk Conservation Society. Check them out at molluskconservation.org.
Why are they going extinct? Alright, seriously, the nature just trying to survive, doing all this shit just so the cycle repeats and it just survives, right? It is surprising how all of us animals are programmed in a way that tells us to survive, basically, right? So imagine if your life was nothing but just trying to make sure that your babies survive, just so those babies can have their own babies and the cycle repeats. I mean, in more detail, when you psychologically think of it, just living just for the sake of living, just so you can procreate and your offspring can live and cycle repeats with having no life, you would feel like what's the point of that, right? But seriously, every single animal is kind of programmed like that. It's surprising to see how dangerous environments certain animals live, and all their thing is just to survive enough so their offsprings live. Same process their offspring goes through and just cycles repeats. That's their whole life, just trying to survive, nothing else. Nothing else matters, just so they can have their offspring and move on. That's just so fucked up. Yeah, you know what? I was getting creeped out a lot in this video, but I feel like this didn't need to be a creeped out video, but I think Zafrank has just molded this video in a way that feels creepy, right? Things in this is supposed to be that creepy, but it just felt like that. That's how great this guy is, basically. He can just mold it in a way that doesn't directly tell you that he's trying to make it creepy, but it just becomes one. Yeah, so I was just, but this is seriously good, man. Look, I always think about YouTube is what now? 15 years or so old, 15, 16. I think it was 2006. I don't remember exactly. But that year old, right? And I always think about certain history topics that will run out, right? Everything run out. But I feel like this kind of an animal zoology video that will never run out because of how many different type of animals there are, right? Doesn't matter how many species get extinct. You can always talk about something here and there. So it's always fun to watch videos like this. Alright, well, if you like my next one, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.